Well, tell us about your story. How did you get into the blockchain space and get interested in NFTs and found Rmrk?
Sure. I started in Ethereum in 2015 with smart contract development, some auditing. I then started some educational projects to train Web2 developers how to join Web3, teaching people how to develop for Web3 websites and in general, how to interact with smart contracts. This led me to getting employed by a company that was working on Ethereum 2.0, where I was also their educator. And then I got hired by the Web3 Foundation later to work on Polkadot and Kusama. And while I was working there, also as a technical educator, I realized that NFTs were becoming popular again. This was in around August 2020. And I felt like it would be a shame if Kusama didn't have NFTs. So I just decided to add NFTs on Kusama. But I was, at the time, I was disappointed in what NFTs on Ethereum were and on other chains. And so I just wanted to build something more advanced. And so I decided to create Rmrk as this standard for hyper advanced NFT 2.0 Legos components from which you can build any complicated NFT system that you want.
Like you said, Rmrk is provides an NFT Legos. So what are those Legos and what can people build with them?
The Legos there are 5 of them, and they're basically 5 separate mini standards that you can compose together into a complex system without having to write any custom code. Lego 1 is NFTs are able to equip other NFTs and own other NFTs, which means that nesting NFTs is now possible, where you can create like a bundle of NFTs, but you can also use it for a lot of different things like in-game avatars with equipment. That equipment can then have pockets into which other equipment can go and so on. Or you can also use it to do some other fancy things like making a big community-oriented puzzle where people have to send in parts of the puzzle and compose it together. It is also possible to create musical NFTs that can own other NFTs. So like one music track can own a sample of a voice, a sample of drums, a sample of synthesizer, and so on. And so you put them together and you get this community collaboration of NFTs that own other NFTs. And we're also the only project in the world that has solved the nested NFT royalty problem, which means that if, for example, you have something like a game avatar, and this avatar has a jacket, and that jacket has a decoration, a patch. If you were the designer of that patch and your royalty is 2%, then even if this avatar is sold while wearing the jacket, you will still get your share of the royalty. And so you can now imagine a whole kind of like accessories economy arising from this. We've also done a lot of different things on Lego 2 with multi-resource NFTs. So Lego 2 is multi-resource NFTs that allow an NFT to have multiple representations. And so this can be in any media type. For example, if you have an ebook NFT, then that one NFT can have different outputs depending on what application loads it. So if you load that NFT in Kindle, you will be able to read it as a PDF. But if you load it in Audible, you will play it as an audiobook. And if you load it in an NFT marketplace, it will just show the visual cover. So, but those 3 resources are all part of the same NFT. And so this allows you to do other wonderful things, like if, for example, you have something like a metaverse, and in that metaverse, you can have, maybe there's 2 metaverses. Maybe there's one that is very cartoonish, and maybe there's one that is very photorealistic. If you want to buy a jacket for your avatar, typically you have to decide, do I buy the jacket in a cartoonish fashion for this metaverse or a realistic fashion for the other metaverse? But with multi-resource NFTs, you can actually buy one that has 2 different resources, the cartoonish one and the hyper-realistic one. And depending on which metaverse you log into, that is the one that you see, but it's all the same jacket. And this is applicable to a lot of other different things, like even backing up your NFT on different providers to make it, decentralized in storage. You can have one resource that is on IPFS, one resource that is on Arweave, one resource that is on SiaCoin, and so on. And so you can have backups of the same image or media file of your NFT on different platforms using this multi-resource technology just to keep it alive forever. Lego 3 is being able to send emotes like, you know, heart, poop, and so on, like on social media, to NFTs that you own or that other people own. So that's an interesting social mechanic. And Lego 4 is conditional rendering, where you can actually react to those emotes. You can have NFTs react to those emotes, or to any other on-chain and off-chain values. For example, you can have a picture of a Mona Lisa, and if Mona Lisa gets 50 kiss emojis, then Mona Lisa can blush. She can show you a different resource where she is blushing. So that's one example. But also another example is you can mint an NFT collection where the look of the NFT will change if that NFT has 50 brothers. So you can have a condition in the NFT that says, if there are 50 other NFTs in the same collection, then change the look of this NFT. And this will work. And the fifth and final Lego is NFTs as DAOs, where you can split an NFT into fungible tokens so that more holders can control a single token, a single NFT. And the advantage here is that you can issue commands as a community. So if you have a metaverse, and in that metaverse there is a billboard, and people own the fractions of that billboard through such a token, then they can collectively together decide what gets shown on the billboard. And they can also share the profit from this advertising space. And so each of these Legos is independent, but when they're used together in combinations, then it's extremely powerful. And the advantage of these Legos is that any user interface and any application, any marketplace that supports these 5 Legos will automatically support any combination of these Legos. And this is what makes the standard so powerful, because you no longer have to write custom code around your NFTs. Instead, you just put together what you have and everybody already supports it.
Okay, yeah, I want to dig a little bit further on the multi-resources that you just said. So who is adding those resources? If I have an NFT, I can add any resource on top of that at any time, or I need to get a permission or something?
Yeah, so with Rmrk, every NFT is a multi-signature address between 2 parties, the issuer, the minter, and the owner. And if you are the issuer, you can propose a new resource to an NFT, but the owner has to accept it. So technically, this is to allow 2 things. This is to prevent 2 things. One, it is to prevent an NFT owner from just adding stuff to their NFT and making it either super valuable or super worthless. And 2, it prevents the minter, the issuer, from rug pulling the art. So if we were to allow a minter to just add resources whenever to anybody's NFT, then that's obviously very centralized and dangerous, because they can just remove your art whenever they want. But since the issuer has to propose a new resource and the owner has to accept it, then it's a 2-party signature where the owner can just choose not to accept it and they keep the old NFT, but they can also choose to accept it and get a new resource that will upgrade their NFT.
For example, I have different resources in my NFT and I can use them in different metaverses, right? In that case, the issuer has to design different versions of that NFT in order to fit in with different metaverses, or how does that work?
Yes, correct. So the issuer is the only one who can propose the resource. So any metaverse that wants to expand the use case of an existing NFT by adding it to their metaverse, they will have to, the issuer doesn't have to design it, but they have to propose it. So if, for example, if let's say that we have Decentraland and we have Sandbox. Now let's say that Decentraland, which is kind of like low poly 90s graphics metaverse, and Sandbox is voxel based metaverse. So they use different models by default. And so now let's say that you have a jacket that is just currently there is just an image, like literally it might be a photograph of a jacket. So now what in Rmrk, what will have to happen if Decentraland wants to turn that jacket into a wearable item in their game, they have to design the 3D item. and then they have to propose that, then they have to just send it to the issuer of the Jacket NFT. Now, the issuer of the Jacket NFT will then propose it as a new resource to all of the owners, and then they will just get it, upgrade it, and that's it. The same thing happens for Sandbox. So Sandbox will have to design their own voxel-based jacket, propose it to the issuer, who will then make it a resource proposition, and then all of the owners can accept it and get this upgrade. This is a little bit of a blocker where we have to communicate with the original minter, original issuer, but they are, after all, the ones who are in charge of their collection on how it evolves, how it grows. And so this makes sense, but we are investigating different permissioning methods where you will be able to propose a resource based on a community vote or some other collective effort that can be involved. So for example, if enough holders vote to add a new resource to all the NFTs, then this resource could be added or proposed to all the holders, something like that.
You said that the Rmrk 1.0 was a hack on Kusama and is a graffiti, but now you're kind of like rewriting it in the Rmrk 3.0 and make it into substrate paddeds and smart contract. So why is this needed, and what can 3.0 allow people to do in the future?
So it is needed because right now we are using a method where we are abusing the Kusama chain. This was a method that was necessary at the time because there were no parachains yet. And it basically just writes custom messages to the chain, but not to its chain storage, only to the nodes that are running the chain. And we fetch that data and sync it. The problem is that to actually get an up-to-date state of the NFT data in the Rmrk ecosystem, you would have to fetch all the Rmrk submissions, all the interactions, all the NFTs from the beginning of the Rmrk project. And then you can only, so it's very difficult to get a decentralized up-to-date state of the NFTs. It would take a few days to get your own full state of it, but you can download our dumps and get a shortcut to it. The other reason is that there are some vulnerabilities because Kusama does not have smart contracts. It is possible to double buy some NFTs. So if two people buy it at the same time, there's no mechanism to refund the double purchase automatically like there is on smart contracts. And so to get away from these pitfalls, we are rewriting the entire logic of the Rmrk standard. So there are three versions of Rmrk. Rmrk 1 was just basic images, and NFTs like on any other chain right now. So just basic images, plus emotes. Rmrk 2 was all the 5 NFT Legos that I described, deployed on this hacky way on Kusama. And this is now in action. You can try it out on singular.app. It works. People are minting multi-resource and equipable NFTs, and it's fantastic. The ecosystem is growing very, very rapidly. But it still has the same downsides. And so we are now rewriting things into smart contracts and palettes specifically to be deployed on as many ecosystems as possible. By being in both palettes and smart contracts, this will make us compatible with all the substrate chains, but will also make us compatible with all the EVM chains. And because we are in Kusama and all the chains are naturally interconnected, this means that you can actually use your NFT across all of these chains in a very intuitive and cool way. Like, for example, right now, there is a project in the community which has created a Rmrk NFT project, an NFT collection of like a trophy case, a big shelf for trophies, and it's empty. And every time you vote on a referendum on the chain in on-chain governance, you will actually be given an NFT trophy to equip into your shelf. And so now people are building their participation shelves as a way of creating their own reputation on chain. So they're now building, visually building their reputation of participating in on-chain governance, which is really cool. But what's even cooler is when this is done with palettes or smart contracts, another chain will be able to read this data and react to it. So for example, if I go to Karura and I want to take a loan, maybe I will be able to take an under-collateralized loan because I have a great performance in being a chain participant. So your NFTs will have cross-chain value because they will carry with them this reputation that you've built and these items that may be cross-chain compatible in some way. Another example is we just had a promotion where the Rmrk token was launched on Karura, and people who were doing liquidity providing there were given a bonus if they had a demon mask equipped on their Canaria Bird NFT. So if you have an NFT equipped on your other NFT, then you were qualifying for an extra bonus. And this, you can expect to see this across a lot of different chains, especially as they utilize these NFT2 Legos. And furthermore, with Rmrk 3, as it graduates to palettes and contracts, we will be able to support advanced auction types. We will be able to support advanced permissioning types, like who can add a resource to your NFT, who can equip your NFT for you. For example, this is very useful for games. If you're in a game and you go into a shop and buy some equipment, you want to make that contract, you want to give that contract permission to equip gear for you, so that you can have like a gear master who can help you, equip your loadouts and so on. There's a lot of different things that can become possible with this, and especially right now we cannot do the NFTs as DAO thing. We cannot split an NFT into tokens because Kusama does not have a way to get vesting on tokens. Kusama does not have a way to programmatically react to tokens, or even to program tokens that are launched on Kusama or StateMine. And so this is very limiting. But with smart contracts and palettes, what we can do is we can very easily make those NFTs fractionalizable and interactable through the community. So it's really opening the door to the full potential of the NFT Legos.
Are you thinking about considering about migrate the whole Rmrk to a new chain, maybe your own chain, like you want to launch it on other chains, parachains?
We're not considering launching on our chain. So we're definitely not going to have a Rmrk chain unless the chains that have promised to integrate our palettes break that promise and reject our palettes for some reason. So then, yes, we will have no choice. But we would rather not create even more chains in the ecosystem. We would rather deploy our logic on existing chains to improve the NFT infrastructure for everybody. As far as other chains go, we have a partnership with about a dozen chains in the ecosystem who all promised that they would integrate our palettes when they're ready. We also have a lot of interest from the EVM chains in the ecosystem, and lately from EVM chains outside of the ecosystem. We are not kind of locked into a system. We want to upgrade the NFT standards for everybody. So of course we will deploy wherever we can get a grant to, cover the cost of deployment. But our primary deployment is always the .sama ecosystem, purely because it is so interconnected. So the NFT 2.0 Legos and the global item economy that we're creating with the NFTs can only properly live in .sama because sharing collections and sharing compatibility between collections on all of these chains is a huge selling point and something that doesn't exist anywhere, and something that can be truly big.
Yeah, talking about bring this Rmrk standard to more ecosystems, like Rmrk as a brand new and novel NFT standard. How do you plan to let the market accept it and to get more projects, more NFTs to adopt it?
Purely by being that much more powerful. It's kind of like the horse carriage to electric vehicle jump. There's not even a gas engine in between. When we come out with Rmrk on all of these platforms, it is obviously going to be that much more powerful than anything that exists out there, that people will just be like, okay, it doesn't make sense to use anything else. That is our key selling point, the fact that we are a few generations beyond anything that exists out there right now. The other one is that we have this unique advantage of building in Kusama and .sama in general, where there are no major established marketplaces to hold us back. And because marketplaces are incredibly resistant to change, because what makes them money, they don't want to change, it would be much harder to deploy this on the Ethereum mainnet or something like that. But because we have this blank slate where we could innovate really quickly and get to something really awesome in a very short amount of time and deploy 5 different fully production-ready products in that year and a half that we've been working on this, even less year, is an indicator of how fast things can go here and how far we can take them. And so as people realize that Rmrk standards support everything they've been used to, plus that much more, I think everybody will willingly move over. And if they won't, we will just keep innovating and keep building the best and most user-friendly marketplace on the market so that people just default to ours.
Like as you're in the Kusama or like Dosama ecosystem, what do you think is the biggest missing part of the Kusama and Polkadot NFT ecosystem?
I would say developer experience. There's no developer experience. There is no good. There's a severe lack of good documentation and good libraries to use. There's a very big project like under the Polkadot.js API project, which is basically home to all the libraries that people use to interact with substrate chains. But that library is a behemoth. It is very, very large. It is very difficult to embed into websites because of its size. It is extremely hard to understand because it is by far the most complicated JavaScript project I've ever seen in my life, and TypeScript project that is, and it is super difficult to even contribute to. Not because of any specific reason, but just because it is that complicated. It takes a lot of time to get into it. And that is basically the only choice that people have right now. So it's really difficult to get started with, and the docs are not that good. So it's very difficult to develop for .summer right now. Additionally, a lot of the documentation is out of date. A more powerful technical education team is needed on the side of Parity that would actually communicate how to develop things, not just raw chains, but building on top of these chains. So interacting with the chains through TypeScript, through the nodes, through RPC calls, and so on. So the more libraries, the more UI frontends, the more UI components, the more documentation we can have, the better it will be for everybody. That is the most crucial missing part, because even we at Rmrk are seriously guilty of this. Our documentation is absolutely terrible to the point of not even existing, really, virtually. So we are working on getting better at this. But yeah, frankly, like finding good documentation leaders is almost as hard as finding good developers these days. So everybody's working on this. Everybody's working really hard on improving these documents for both Polkadot and Kusama and Polkadot.js and Rmrk. But it's going to be a long process because there's a lot to document and not a lot of people who are expert enough to do it. So this is, I think, the most crucial part to make this system really appealing to developers.
Next, let's talk about the Skybridge, the Rmrk metaverse. So where do you see this metaverse heading in the future? Is that going to be like a playground for Canary holders?
So it's going to be an evolving environment for everybody, because we will have two initial collections that you can log into, that you can use to log into Skybridge. One will be the Canary birds, and the other will be Chunkies, our next avatar collection that will be unlimited in supply. So it will be a very cheap, very approachable avatar to get and to start playing with. So it's like it will be accessible to everybody, but the plan is to make it as decentralized as possible. So the idea is there's this world governance mechanism which uses the Canary birds to make worldwide decisions. So if somebody wants to add a new sub-game into it, or a new asset, or a new equipable, it is subject to the world governance vote. And once this vote passes, it will be automatically upgraded. There's not going to be any admin function. So it's all going to be community governed, which means that it can go one of two ways. One, it can be an incredibly awesome experiment in community world building, or the community can just destroy it in a few months, and then that experiment is over. But in any case, it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. We do expect a lot of innovation and a lot of really creative stories to come out in Skybridge, because there is this concept of a lore thread where we have the basic backstory of the universe and rules on how to make your world compatible with the backstory of how it appeared as a breach in Skybridge. And if people follow that along, then their story can become canonical and they can actually join this metaverse. And so this is how we envision it growing and growing. Another aspect is that it's going to be hyper casual, so it's going to be very mobile friendly and 2D top down, no complicated controls, no mouse controls, no WASD, no sitting behind a computer. You can fire it up anytime you want on the desktop or on mobile and log out anytime you want. And this is, I think, crucial for the next level of adoption. And we will try to abstract away as many blockchain interactions as we can, so that people don't have to bother with private keys, with passwords, and with confirming every single interaction and so on. So this is still, in a research phase, but what we want essentially is to create an evolving 2D world which has some mechanics for self-cleaning. So if, for example, you buy a piece of digital land in Skybridge and you don't do anything with it for a very, very long amount of time, so don't interact with it at all, then it can decay and be taken away from you by the world. And this will make sure that things remain clean and fresh when people forget their wallets, when people lose access to their accounts, when people just lose interest and disappear, when people die, and so on. So there are these mechanisms in place where we are trying to evolve them as fairly as possible, and where we want to make the world highly volatile, highly modifiable, so that people can actually interact and collectively decide where it evolves. So yes, a global playground of cute pixel graphics.
Yeah, so let's say like PolkaWorld want to build a game or like a community in the Skybridge metaverse. Is that possible? Like under the permission of the world governance?
You don't have to ask permission for stuff like that, only for changing the actual game, like in terms of what story or quest is accessible, what NPCs are in the game, and so on. If you want to build just a house to hang out in, that you can decorate or whatever, that can be done by anybody. So you can just buy a piece of land or rent a piece of land, get some items or craft some items, put them in the house, and just hang out there, or on your piece of land. So that works just like that. If you want to do actual changes to the game, like install a PolkaWorld NPC into the game, which will answer questions or something, you can world governance that in, or you can just deploy an account that just owns one avatar, and that is actually a bot that responds to people's messages. And so that will work the exact same way. It will just act as a player character that just stands in place and answers messages. So there are many different ways, and we are talking to projects that are interested in deploying things in Skybridge so that we can make it as approachable as possible for everybody.
At this stage, how can developers and artists get involved in the Rmrk ecosystem?
Developers should join our developer implementation group. We have a Telegram group where everybody who's building on Rmrk hangs out and helps each other out. That is just Telegram / Rmrk Impl, IMPL. It's also linked on our website, I believe, and in our repository. There are some docs, they're not very good. I'm looking at fixing that very soon. And but the best thing to do is to join that group and ask if you want to build something on top of Rmrk. That is the best approach. For artists, they should just go to singular.app. There is even a sponsorship form which will give them some free KSM if they have any history of art. If they like drew a flower in kindergarten, that's okay. As long as we know that they're a real person, we will give them some KSM so they can start interacting with the protocol and with the marketplace and everything. $5 of KSM is enough for like 200 NFTs to be minted. So this is what we give people so they can start playing around with it. And then there we can take them through other functionality, like showing them how to make multi-resource NFTs and everything. We actually have an artist team on board who look at every new incoming candidate, evaluate them, help them out, and everything. So they can expect a lot of help there. Alternatively, they can also just join our Telegram group for just general Rmrk NFTs. That's t.me/rmrkapp. So that's Rmrk app. in Telegram. But it's very easy to join. We've tried really hard to focus on user experience. So we would really love it if more people who are not familiar with the ecosystem would try to join us and tell us what doesn't work, what is still confusing, so that we can improve it for everybody.
Yeah, Bruno, that's all my questions. Do you have anything that you want to add?
Join the next frontier of NFTs. Do not be afraid of new technology, and do not be afraid of trying to get familiar with a very complicated and scary new system that is Sama and Kusama in general. You will get used to the wallets very quickly. There are some excellent choices now, like the Talisman wallet that supports even token transfers and everything, and even shows your NFTs in the extension. So join us, try it out, help us improve the UX for everybody. And if you have any excellent ideas on what to build based on what I've spoken about today, or maybe something you found on our website or elsewhere, let us know, and we'll be happy to guide you on how to build that. So please tune in, join us on singular.app, and let's build together.